Let us understand what is e-commerce. The definition of e-commerce has been clearly given by Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, which comes under Ministry of Commerce and Industry under Government of India. So, e-commerce means buying and selling of goods and services over a digital platform. Further, an e-commerce entity, which means any company incorporated under Companies Act 1956 or Companies Act 2013, which is operating in India, whether owned and controlled by person resident outside India and conducting e-commerce businesses in India. So, this means business entity. So, when we talk about a business e-commerce entity, it means any company which is incorporated in India and which is in the process, which is engaged in buying and selling of goods and services over digital and electronic network. So, that is e-commerce. Now, from this diagram we can understand that there is a manufacturer or a producer or a service provider who tries to cater the needs, wants and demands of various segments of the consumers or customers. So, he manufactures, he produces various kinds of goods. Further, goods can be classified into three major categories. Number one, consumer durables or consumer goods such as electronic goods or any kind of like car, TV, washing machine, fridge, all these. Next is fast moving consumer goods. These are known as FMCG goods. So, these goods we go to various shops, various retail outlets where we buy various kind of products like soap, detergent, and all these are fast moving consumer goods which we consume, and it gets consumed on frequent basis, which do not last for longer period of time. So, this is second category of goods. Third is industrial goods or services. So, that basically comes under business to business goods or services. So, basically we can categorize goods into three categories. Number one, consumer durable. Number two, fast moving consumer goods. Number three, industrial goods or services. Now, again e-commerce facilitates meeting the demands, want, need of consumers at a platform. So, manufacturers used to produce, consumer used to buy, and the medium which through which they interact online is e-commerce market. So, basically we can say e-commerce is the mechanism or the process or a platform which connects the buyers at one end, consumers at buyers and consumers at one end and sellers at another. So, when we talk about e-commerce, e-commerce simply means buying and selling of goods and services over electronic media or electronic platform or online. So, that is basically e-commerce. See, digital and electronic network further has been defined by Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, which comes under Ministry of Commerce, that it includes a network of computers, television channels or any other internet applications that is used, such as web pages, extranets or mobiles. So, digital and electronic network acts as a channel for e-commerce transactions. Further, the report of this CIA National Committee on E-commerce, Mr. Viresh Oberoi, the co-chairman, he gave this very interesting observation that e-commerce not only provides an opportunity for efficient commerce, but it also empowers the commerce. So, basically this e-commerce facilitates effective distribution of goods and services, also encouraging commerce at a large volume, right. So, let us understand further on. So, why e-commerce? The first thing that comes to mind is e-commerce facilitates the buyers and sellers coming together and mutually exchanging their goods and services for a consideration. Here consideration means the buyer will purchase a product or a service from manufacturer at a market, which may be an online market or it may be an offline market. So, this e-commerce, which is again online platform for buying and selling of goods and services, it provides a lot of access to market. It provides access to market for various products and services at the convenience of the consumer. Next point is, it provides as an opportunity in assessing what kind of products and services are demanded or required by various stakeholders in the entire supply chain. For example, the raw material manufacturers will be able to understand what kind of products are required, end products are required. So, they will produce, they will arrange the raw materials according to that, and then as per customers specification, their requirement, the products are manufactured. So, understanding the market demand for products and services takes place through e-commerce channel. The next point is that customer relationship management. We have discussed this point at other places. That means, in retailing we have seen that customer relationship management is the most important thing, because through customer relationship management the consumers and the customers discusses, they shares what they feel about the products and services. So, again e-commerce, that electronic medium, facilitates the sellers, the buyers to mutually exchange their opinion about products and services. So, if there is a complaint, there is a feedback, there is a suggestion concerning to a particular product, this user, the end user, the customer, the consumer can share their feedback, their opinion to the manufacturer or the producer or the service provider. So, this is the most important thing. So, now let us understand what are various kinds of business models in e-commerce in India. So, according to Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, the e-commerce can be categorized into three business models. Number one is inventory based model, number two is marketplace based model, and number three is hybrid model. In inventory based model, the e-commerce activities are owned by an e-commerce entity and sold to consumers directly. It means there is a firm, there is a e-commerce entity which is holding the inventory. That means there is a manufacturer who produces, who manufactures a product, then second person, an entity, they will buy from the manufacturer, they will hold the inventory, and when demand requires, when demand emerges, they will supply to the end consumer. So, this is inventory based model, right. Next is marketplace based model of e-commerce. Here with the help of information and technology platform, the e-commerce entity or a company or a firm, they acts as a facilitator between buyer and seller. So, they acts providing as a marketplace, and buyers and sellers comes together and they mutually, buyer sells and purchaser purchases, seller sells, purchaser purchases. So, this kind of e-commerce generally takes place through online websites or mobile apps. For example, Flipkart and Amazon, they go for marketplace based model of e-commerce. Third one is hybrid model. Again, it is a combination of inventory based as well as marketplace based model of e-commerce, where a firm or a business entity, they holds inventory, they also acts as a marketplace. That means various manufacturers, they can approach to them. So this a business entity will sell his own products, which this entity is having this inventory, and he will also sell the products of other manufacturers. So this is a kind of hybrid model which is operating in India. Then type of e-commerce businesses or business models in India. So basically we might have gone through various kinds. For example, B2C, that means business to consumer, in which a business entity supplies the products to consumers. The dealing between consumer and the business is known as business to consumer. Next is consumer to consumer. This consumer to consumer, that means there is a consumer and there is a marketplace. So for example, OLX, a consumer can sell a product using OLX to another consumer or customer. So this is consumer to consumer. Now business to business, B2B. B2B kind of e-commerce takes place between two business entities. So one business entity buying some goods and services from another business entity, that will come under B2B. The example of this kind of e-commerce is through when we go for buying any product and we choose the payment option. So we go to some various kind of options comes under that, and then we go to a particular channel, for example this PayPal. So they acts as a service provider, and then B2B transactions takes place. So this may also be through B2C. Again B2G, business to government and government to consumer. In this type of e-commerce businesses, this government to government, then business to government, then government to consumer, all these can be understood from this particular diagram, where the dealing, the transaction between various stakeholders takes place. Examples has been given. One of the most important thing here is consumer to government, how consumers interact with the government. And again this is kind of e-commerce where the economic activities are taking place. For example, filing of income tax returns. So consumer files over internet, over online medium to government. This is the, for example, this is the return for this particular year. Again consumer to business, very interesting websites like Naukri.com, where consumer is interacting with a business. So transactions between consumer and business is taking place. Again consumer to consumer, Facebook, eBay, Flipkart, Flickr, all these are there. Business to consumer, this is another kind of e-commerce platform. Flipkart, Rediff Mail, all these are there. Rediff. Next is government to consumer. So government interacts with consumers. So information relating to citizens, online forms, all these comes under government to consumer. So we have studied the various types of e-commerce businesses in India. Next. Now let us understand what are the various drivers of e-commerce market in India. The first point that comes to mind and that plays very significant role is the increasing penetration of internet and smart devices. That means with the advent or with the introduction of internet services, the smartphones, tablets, laptops and all electronic gadgets, the e-commerce transactions and activities are taking place. It is increasing exponentially. There is a huge development, there is a huge expansion in e-commerce transactions, e-commerce activities with the increasing of internet and smart devices. Next point which is very important is it is very convenient for a consumer or a customer to go online and purchase a product. Again, it requires less energy, time and cost, and at the same time the consumer can compare the products and services of various manufacturers at a particular marketplace. So, this again helps it boost the sales of products and services, and again e-commerce plays a very significant role. Third point which is very important is the payment options. For example, in India, a lot of research has shown that cash on delivery, that means when a product is delivered to your doorstep, you prefer to pay the cash, the price of the product. This is again very convenient for the consumer or a customer. So, he will prefer COD and then again digital payment options, EMI options. So, these facilitates in e-commerce, in development of e-commerce. Next is changing lifestyle and aspirations of India's youth or demographic profile or demographic dividend which we say. So, we prefer in metro cities, even in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, that let us understand, let us experience a product without going to any physical store. So, whatever any product that I require or we require, we can go to mobile app, we can go to website, we can directly order them, and we do not require to pay instantly. We can have an option of COD, that is cash on delivery, and then we can have product experience and then we can purchase further on. So, this changing lifestyle and aspirations, that means individuals do not have time, they have a lot of activities, so they prefer purchasing online. So, this is one of the driver of e-commerce market in India. Next very important initiative aspect is that government initiatives. For example, encouragement by the government for Digital India, Make in India, Startup India, all these are also encouraging the e-commerce market in India. So, these are various drivers of e-commerce market in India. Now, let us understand what are the various challenges of e-commerce market in India. Although there are various drivers, but there are certain challenges to e-commerce market in India. So, the first one is that high technical market knowledge and expertise is required in going for a business through e-commerce, because that requires setting up a website or developing a website, having a mobile app and having some technical expert who can design all these things and then can proceed further on. So, this dynamic business model, high technical knowledge and barriers to entry, it makes e-commerce market slightly challenging, because in tier 2 and tier 3 in rural areas, in emerging aspirational cities, it is quite difficult for a entrepreneur to sell his products through online, because that requires proper logistics, proper supply chain. So, in metro cities, in tier 1 and tier 2 cities, it is good, business model, e-commerce, through e-commerce. But in tier 3 and other parts of the remote parts of the country, going through websites and then selling a product is quite difficult in today's time. It will take further time to get that development. Next point is lack of skilled human resources. It requires skilled human resources, and then the e-commerce activities can be managed properly. Next point, which is very important, is that lack of well defined e-commerce laws, rules and regulations. That again pulls this e-commerce market downwards. And the last point, which is that of lower internet speed in tier 3 and tier 4 cities, sometimes tier 2 cities. So, internet speed also plays a very significant role while we go for purchasing or buying any product over internet. So, these are various challenges to e-commerce market in India. So, in this session we have learned about what is e-commerce market, why we go for e-commerce market, what are the various types of e-commerce market, what are the business models in e-commerce market. So, in the next class we will discuss about the impact of e-commerce on Indian economy, and we will further discuss what are the emerging business models in e-commerce industry. Thank you very much for watching this session. We will have another session in which we will discuss a lot of important aspects of e-commerce market in India. Thank you very much.